Hi everyone, this is Mindy Eggen, and in today's video I'm going to be adding color and dimension to my die cuts by doing some ink blending. So I have here the Lovely Layers strawberry set, and I was really inspired by the pictures shown down in the bottom of this card. This is the card you receive in your packaging to show you how everything is going to line up. So I went ahead and I die cut out some of the pieces already from some white cardstock. And I'm going to do that with my strawberries as well. So I have a few of the strawberries and the flowers that I'm just going to hold down in place with a low tack tape. And I'm using Hammermill Cardstock for that. Now originally I had cut this piece from some white cardstock, but I really only needed those viney pieces, and these are pretty tiny to be adding some ink blending to, so I decided to die cut it from some green cardstock, and it fits perfectly with my bitty buzz cutter. I also trimmed that cardstock down, and I'll die cut the toppers of my strawberries from that same green cardstock. Since I have my bitty buzz cutter out, I'll go ahead and die cut out these terracotta planters from some Hammermill cardstock as well. I thought these were really neat, and like I said, love that example that Honeybee gave with the strawberry plant coming out of the top of that. So that's die cut from that white cardstock as well. There's two pieces to that, a backer and a front piece. Now I can start doing some ink blending. So for the top of my strawberries, I'm going to be adding some fresh asparagus using a mini blending brush. And I'm coloring just maybe the top and the bottom and leaving the centers white if there's enough room. For the smaller pieces, I'll just be adding some color to just one side of it. To do most of my ink blending, I am working on this silicone mat. This is something I actually got off of Amazon and then just trimmed it down into this small strip because that's really all I needed. And it's holding my die cut pieces in place while I do my ink blending. Now for the leaves part, this one I die cut out of white cardstock, and I added key lime as a base color. It's a really nice bright green. And then I'm going to come in with a mini blending brush and add some of that fresh asparagus, but I'm only doing it to one side of the leaves, whatever side is closest to the ground. Now I wanted to keep those highlight areas on the other leaves, so I'm going to try and mask that off a little bit using a Post-it note. By starting with that light color and then coming in with a darker color on one side is really going to give it dimension and show those highlight areas just as I would as if I were coloring with some markers. Now I'll repeat those same type of steps using my strawberries, except this time it's going to be with some pink and red inks. And you could have started with maybe a light pink cardstock, but I like to do my own blending and add my own dimension to it with the colors. And I wanted my strawberries to be just a really nice, vibrant red and nice and ripe looking. So I started off with a base color, which I believe is a Dusty Rose from Gina K Designs. And then I'm going to come in with a smaller blending brush and add it to the edges of my strawberries. I believe this is a Red Velvet, so I'm still keeping kind of a highlight area to it. Now, if you want to add more dimension to this and even kind of a shadow layer or a shadow look to it, you can come in with a dark brown. Now you have to be careful because you don't want to turn your strawberry brown. You just want to give it that look of a shadow. So sometimes I like to pick it up and just brush the edge of my blending brush with that dark color. For the flowers, I have some leftover ink on my yellow blending brush, so I'm just going to use that to add that to the center of the flowers. For the terracotta planters, I decided to do like a tomato soup color from Gina K Designs, and I'm going to add that to the edges, kind of just softly blending into the center. I really want to keep the center of my planters that highlight area. And then I'm going to come over the edges with that chocolate truffle, and then I go back over it with tomato soup. So I'm kind of toning down that chocolate look with the tomato soup. Now, of course, you can use any colors that you have in your stash. These are the ones that I found matched best to the idea that I had in my head. Now, the other piece of the terracotta planter is going to go behind this, and I die cut that out of white, and because it's going to layer on top, I don't want any of those white edges to show, so I'm just going to use whatever ink I have left on my blending brush and go around those edges. Now I can start putting my strawberry plant together. So I'm starting with the strawberries and I'm going to match them up, and I kind of looked at it as going off of the top of the strawberries. That's how I knew which one went where. It was kind of like fitting together a puzzle piece. So I'm just going to use my tweezers and my liquid glue to attach these to my green plant that I have there. And then I can come in with the top of the strawberries, and that is the same thing. I kind of matched it up like a puzzle piece. Really the top pokey parts is what I was using to line everything up. And then also adding in the flowers. Now the flowers do have a centerpiece, and I die cut that later on off camera and added those centerpieces with a kind of dark shade of yellow. Now here I'm just kind of lining things up to get an idea of how my strawberry plant is going to be fitting inside of my planter. And then I can work on the background. So for my background, I used a piece of pattern paper from the Happy Heart paper pack. And I wanted to ground my image a little bit. So I'm using the wood frame builder. I picked out a few different sizes, and I'm going to die cut that out of some skeleton leaves cardstock from Gina K Designs. The wood frame builder is really great because it has already some texture embossed into the cardstock, and I just went over that cardstock with some Kraft ink, just dragging my ink pad across that to really kind of show the dimension and that detail that the die provided. Now I can start building my floor. So I'm using just a tape runner to add adhesive to the back of that, and I thought it would look really neat to have these hanging off the edge and have those slanted edges match up so it really looks like a wood floor. Now I wasn't paying attention, and I actually had my slants going in different directions, but thankfully the planter is going to cover that up, but it's still a really neat look. And then once I have those attached, I'll just trim off that excess that's hanging off the edge of the card. Then for the planter, I'm going to add some liquid glue to the back of that and attach these two pieces together. Now, I kind of wished I would have die cut that back piece from like a turquoise color to really kind of add some color into that planter, but it looks great just as the way it is. I just wanted to give you an idea that you could use like a colored cardstock behind there. And then I added my strawberry pieces together, but I'm leaving those bottom two strawberries free of any adhesive because this is going to go in the back. So I'm using that terracotta planter as kind of a guide on how high to put my strawberry plant. And then I had that liquid glue just to the very top. Now for my planter, I'm going to add this using some thin foam squares, and I'm going to attach this right over the stem. So I'm tucking that under the strawberries, but over the top of the stems. The sentiment that I'm going to use today is going to come off of the stamp set You're a Keeper. I found one that I really liked, and I'm going to bring out my mini Misti for this. Line up that sentiment on some white cardstock. This is the Hammermill cardstock once again. And once I have that arranged, I'm going to just rub over that with my hand to remove any residual residue that might be left on there from the manufacturer. That's going to give me a cleaner impression when I stamp this down. So to stamp it, I'm using the Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink, and I'm going to stamp it twice to make sure that it is a nice, crisp, clear impression. I just want to make sure that my cardstock is still tucked in that bottom left-hand corner. I'm going to give that ink just a few seconds to dry, and then I can line up the coordinating die, hold that down with that low-tack tape, and run that through the die cut machine. And then to attach it, I'm just going to bring in some foam squares and add it to the right side of the sentiment. And then the other side is going to have some liquid glue because it's going to overlap my planter. Then to finish it off, I'm bringing in a white gel pen, and I'm going to add some highlight areas to my strawberries, the planter pot, and also the leaves. And then that will finish up my card project for today. So I hope you enjoyed this project and adding dimension and detail to your die cuts using some ink blending. The supplies will be listed down below in the video description. Thank you so much for joining me today.